All right, thanks for tuning in to episode 17 of the Maritime Gardening Podcast. We're cranking right along with season 1 and having a good time. And Greg, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Because it would be very scary if you were not. The show would be a little different. But yeah, so we're trucking along through summer here. We just got some rain. We're coming out of that dry heat warning, which is nice.
Yeah, we can have fires again.
Yeah, we can actually play with fire now.
Yay!
I used to love doing that.
Burn all that stuff you've been dying to burn.
Yeah, well, hopefully not your garden.
No,
but
my garden would burn. The whole thing's surrounded in wood chips. It's like a giant cigarette. It's waiting to be smoked by the planet Earth.
Yeah, well, that would not be good. So I legitimately don't know I know what we're going to talk about today, but I have no idea what it is. So cold frames, enlighten me.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about cold frames, and I'm going to explore the notion of whether it makes sense to invest your time and energy into cold frames in Zone 5, where we are. I mean, I'm in Nova Scotia, but anyone in Zone 5, you're going to have similar growing conditions to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I built one last year just to see how it would perform, because I've read a lot about them, and I've read articles that speak to the merits of them, but I don't know. I'm not so sure it's the right move, and I'm going to talk about that today.
Okay, so what is in fact a cold frame?
So a cold frame is a box that you build that's designed to capture heat and allow plants to grow after the growing season has ended.
So like a variation of a little greenhouse or something?
It's a greenhouse.
Oh, okay.
It's designed to really hold the heat in. It's insulated, and it's as my understanding, you use them to prolong the growing period of greens, really tough greens that don't mind a bit of cold, things like Swiss chard and kale and that sort of stuff. You can't grow tomatoes in them and that sort of stuff around here anyway. I think part of the problem is we get a lot of information from the States. So if I'm in North Carolina, cold frame probably makes a lot of sense, because their winter is awesome compared to ours.
Yeah.
You could go there in the winter and have a great time. Whereas our winter, you're like just trying not to die, right?
Yeah.
It's cold here. So yeah, you build a box and you frame it in with plexiglass or glass or heavy plastic, or maybe a combination of plastic and styrofoam, or plastic and wood or something. But it's a box of whatever dimension you're willing to invest the time and money into, and you put your plants and you start growing things there, let's say in the fall, and they're supposed to continue growing and provide food for you into the winter months.
Yeah.
So that all sounds great.
It does. Sign me up.
So last fall, I built a cold frame because I wanted to see what's this all about. Now, full disclosure, I didn't build a glass box because I'm, one term is cheap. I'd say cost averse.
Thrifty.
Cost averse. So, I mean, the way I built mine was the walls were built with bags of leaves.
Right.
People threw away bags of leaves on the side of the road, and I grabbed them to use as mulch. And I thought, well, as long as they're sitting around waiting for next spring, I might as well use them for something. And what could be more insulative than a big bag full of carbon and air?
Right.
So I built an area that was, let's say, 8 feet by 8 feet, and it had a wall of bags of leaves about 2 feet high all the way around it. And then I used the concrete wire remesh to build a domed roof over the top, and built my walls up on the front and back to continue to insulate. I put a little door in there, so it let the light in. It was insulative, and it was directly on the ground, because the ground freezes last.
Yeah.
The ground is insulated, right? It's insulated by adjacent ground.
Right.
So
yeah.
So I built this thing, and I didn't put glass or plexiglass over the top. The domed roof was a couple layers of 6 mil poly, which is pretty heavy plastic. That's just what I had kicking around from other things I'd done in the garden, and I like to sort of keep using things and reusing things until they wear out. I'm very conscious that way. So I built this cold frame, and all I had growing it was Swiss chard and kale, because those are the toughest things you can grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's places in the States where you can grow those things all winter. So that's the thing that I decided to grow in my cold frame. And it was big enough where I could open a door. I had a door on the north side. So the south side was just a big open plastic see-through wall. So it had a south side that was completely open, right down to the ground. So the south side gathered light. Its entire surface gathered light.
Yeah.
The east and west side, with the exception of 2 feet from the bottom, 2 feet, with the exception of 2 feet high of those leaf bags, it was all plastic too. So it gathered light. And the north side, it was just a wall, a solid wall, a solid insulative wall, with the exception of the door, which was wood, because you're not getting any light from the north side.
Mm.
So you might as well just insulate the hell out of it. And not only that, but on the inside of the north side wall, I put, I can't remember I got something in the mail, and it had all this sort of like tin foil bubble wrap type stuff. So I covered the entire north wall, which would be facing south from the inside, with this reflective material, like a tin foil.
Yeah.
So I built the thing to hold heat and capture heat as well as possible. And what I found was that as soon as it got cold outside, the plants didn't die, but they didn't grow,
Mm.
right? They just hung on. So, I mean, I had 8 or 9 or 10 greens growing in there. But, if you were to harvest them for food, they wouldn't grow. Right now, if I've got a kale plant and I'll take, almost the whole plant and take almost all the leaves off the plant, within about 2 or 3 weeks, it's grown back new big leaves,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I can keep harvesting off that plant. But as soon as the winter really set in, December, January, February, those plants weren't growing. They were just not dying. So if I was trying to feed myself, my family, etc., if I'm trying to make a meal every day, or even one meal a week,
Mm.
that an 8x8 cold frame, that's relatively large. I don't know how big gardens the listeners have, but
Mm.
I have a large garden, but you can't make it'd be very expensive to make the whole thing into a giant cold frame. So I made this. Most people, from what I see, they have like one box, a
Yeah.
4x8 box, or a 5x6 box, or a 3x4 box, or whatever they make. It's a relatively small area. So you've only got so many plants that can be in there. And they're not really growing. They're just hanging on. They're just not dying. So they're there, and you can harvest them, but once you harvest them, they're not going to grow back. So it's, if you're thinking about calories, caloric value, it's not a lot of food. It's like a way of storing greens, but once you eat them, it's not like they're going to grow back. And maybe they do grow
No.
back, but because you got to think about that time of year, right? December, January, February, March. There's not a lot of sunlight. So there would be days I'd go out there with the kids. I had a thermometer hanging in the middle of it, because I'm, very sort of nerdy and scientific and so on.
Right.
I wanted to
Right.
check, every weekend or every really good sunny day, we'd go out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if, the kids were around, or we'd go in after school or whatever, and take a look. And, there were plenty of days there in the winter where I'd go in and it might be 17, 18, 19 degrees in there, even though it was 0 outside.
Mm.
So, I mean, there was heat in there. And the soil was not frozen, but the plants weren't growing. They were
Mm.
just, I mean, if they were growing, it was at such a slow rate, because every night it would, the sun would go away, and there'd be some heat inside that cold frame, but that's, probably by 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, the heat's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the winter. It's Canada. It's
Yeah.
cold.
It's cold.
It's here in the north, right?
Yeah.
Um, so those plants can take some cold, but they weren't like growing at night. Like right now, that my plants capture sunlight all day and they're doing photosynthesis, and then they're growing at night. You can go out and look at your plants. I love to go in my garden in the morning and see how much they grew overnight. I don't know how much they grow during the day, but
Yeah.
they definitely grow overnight, because you can go out in the morning, 5, 6 a.m. That's when I like to go out, and wow, look at everything that happened last night while I was asleep.
Yeah.
Um, that's not going on, because at night in the dead of winter, the heat goes down. The plant's just hanging on. It's just,
Mm.
so I don't know that it's a, if space is an issue for you, if money's an issue for you, if your time is an issue for you, I don't know if it's worth the time and money to build one of these things, because there's other things you can do with the space you have for gardening to secure food over the course of the winter that will produce more food and more calories. So,
Right.
I mean, we're not in a, the world hasn't ended and we're not in a survival situation. But if you're thinking that way, and I always tend to think that way, um, what are you getting back given all the energy you're putting into that? And I think there's other better ways to get food out of your garden that you can eat in the winter when nothing is really growing,
Yeah.
pine trees and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. And towards the end, I will talk about what's good about cold frames, what ways they can be useful and ways they can benefit your garden.
Yeah.
But let's talk about alternatives. I think that if you had an area in a garden, let's say, I always think of a gardening bed as a 4 foot by 10 foot space. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be that, but I tend to find that a great, you know, an ideal dimension. You can walk around it, you can reach in from either side. So
Right.
I tend to make garden beds that are about 4 by 10 or 4 by 12 at the most.
Mm-hmm.
Any longer than that, longer than 12 feet, you get this big thing you got to walk around. It's a bit of an obstacle in your garden. I like to have paths in between things, and I like to have room to move around, move a wheelbarrow around, move materials around. And I find 4 by 10 is just great, because you can, it's only 2 feet to reach from either side, and 10
Mm-hmm.
feet wide isn't too long to walk around. It's not too much of an obstacle in your garden.
Yeah.
So instead of turning that 4 by 10 space into a cold frame, which would take time, money, and at the height of summer, that cold frame, it's too hot. It's super hot.
Yeah.
It's getting just nailed with heat, right?
Oh yeah.
You got to take the roof off. You got to open it up. You got to let either that, or you got to go in there every day during the summer and water it by hand.
Mm.
As opposed to, if it's open, it's just going to get rained on, and if you've got a
Right.
permaculture like garden like me with a good mulch, it's going to hold the water, and you don't have to do anything. It's just going to get
Yeah.
rained on. It's going to hold on to the water, and it's going to grow on its own. So even if you have a cold frame, by around sometime July, August, you're going to have to take the roof off and put the roof somewhere so that the thing can get direct sun, not filtered sun, because even plastic or glass filters some of the wavelength of the sun through the
Right. Right.
plant's not getting the full spectrum of the sun.
Yeah.
Um, so I think a better use of the space is to grow from a getting calories from your garden, calories that you can consume when the gardening season's over, is to plant things that you can store, that
Yeah.
store well. I mean, think about pioneers. They didn't have cold frames, right? They had to, they didn't, there was no Superstore or Sobeys or Gateway Market.
Yeah.
There was nothing like that for those people. And they had to get by on what they were able to grow themselves. And they didn't have cold frames. They grew a variety of things in their gardens. And one thing they focused heavily on was things that they could store, so
Mm.
that in the lean months of the winter, they could have those things in addition to preserves. And those things are your winter squashes and root vegetables and other things and preserves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can vegetables, you'd make jams, jellies, relishes, pickles, and you'd also just can things.
Mm.
Just like a um, before refrigeration, you canning just means you take a vegetable and you put it in a jar and you heat it up and you vacuum seal it so that keeps for, not indefinitely, but it keeps certainly keeps long enough that you could eat it before the next year's
Right.
food started becoming available. The easiest kind of thing you can plant is something that you don't even have to can or preserve, something that just you harvest it, you put it in a box, you put it somewhere that's not too hot, and you eat it when you feel like it.
Yeah.
And those are root vegetables or winter squashes, right? That's why they're called winter squash, because you harvest them in the fall, you stick them in a cold room, some room that stays not
Cool.
too hot, not too cold, like around 5 degrees all winter long. And you eat it when you eat, when you want to eat that, if you got some sort of, acorn squash or a pumpkin or some sort of squash or a potato or carrots or parsnips or a turnip. You just have those things stored in a cold room. And when you want to eat them, you just go grab them and cook them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get so many more calories, or vegetables that can be dried, and like beans, right? You can,
Right.
if
Right.
you grow pole, the pioneers grew pole beans. They grow beans that they let the thing mature on the vine, and they'd get the beans out of the pods, and they just dry them, just like when you buy navy beans or kidney beans, dried beans, and you cook them, and it's a wonderful, healthy food source. But even beans, if you're going to be drying them, that's a bit of a process. So the easiest thing is to grow potatoes, carrots, root vegetables like that, because you can leave them in the ground right up to like Christmas, right? I don't pull those things out of the ground till like Christmas. Partly because Christmas, you got a bit of time, you got a vacation, you got a few days off.
Yeah.
The ground hasn't really frozen up yet.
Right.
So you can go out there and you harvest everything and you put it in a cardboard box. And I mean, I've got a house. I'm fortunate where my house, the garage is attached to the house.
Yeah.
The garage is not heated, but it sort of gets heat from the house just because it's adjacent. It's
Just like
connected.
mine. Yeah.
So I have a thermometer in my garage, and any time in the winter, no matter what kind of winter we're having, it's always above zero.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's always somewhere between 3, 4, 5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
my apologies to our American
Well,
listeners.
30, that'd be like 35, 38, 39, something like
Plus
that.
27, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's basically a cold room. It's a refrigerator.
Yeah.
It's also a great place to keep beer. Just saying. But it's like perfect beer temperature
Yeah.
in winter. It's better than a fridge.
Yeah.
You can store a lot of beer in a garage.
Sidetracked.
Sidetracked. So it makes so much more sense to plant a large plot of carrots, a large plot of parsnips. And if you've never planted parsnips, and I've talked about this before on the show, they're so good. I have to have you over, Dave.
You do.
Parsnip feast.
You know what? I absolutely did not like parsnips when I was growing up. I think I mentioned that before, but it could have been the way they were prepared. But and they
Our
were
generation. I mean, our parents didn't
yeah.
didn't cook food. They sterilized food.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's exactly what they
I
did.
remember my father boiling beans. Like he'd
Yeah.
put them in a pot and boil the hell out of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, beans are delicious, but you don't boil them. I mean, that's like
And then you drain all the water and it's like green water.
the best part of the
Yeah.
bean is being thrown down the sink. You
Yeah,
should drink that
exactly.
water like a tea.
Yeah,
like
actually, that's a
nutrient.
good idea.
A lot of vitamins. I mean, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a biologist, or so you can wiki or Google this yourself.
Yeah.
But a lot of really important vitamins in your diet are greatly destabilized by heat.
Yeah.
So when you're cooking vegetables, I don't like eating a lot of raw. I like to cook a lot of my vegetables, but I mean, I cook them just enough so that they're tender and they taste good.
Yeah.
I tend to cook them with garlic and olive oil and things like that.
Right.
But I don't cook the hell out of them.
Yeah.
I just cook them so that they taste better. A little bit of salt, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Man, you're making me hungry again.
So it makes so much more sense to grow these sort of, vegetables that can be just harvested. You put them in a cardboard box, you put them somewhere not too hot, not too cold. They can't freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Um, garlic. You harvest your garlic and you can store it.
Mm.
Onions, you can store them
Mm-hmm.
for quite a while.
Mm.
Most of these root vegetables, you can store them for, and depending on how ingenious you are with the way you store them,
Right.
because it's the the more oxidization, the shorter the shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you put a bunch of carrots in a cardboard box and we're eating them, I imagine by March they'd be pretty funky.
Yeah, done.
Um, they're still like, if you were starving to death, they'd still be food.
Oh yeah.
You'd be happy to have them there, but they wouldn't be like something you'd want to serve to,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but I guarantee you, from a caloric level, you're going to be getting
Yeah.
more out of that space in the winter months than you
Yeah.
would have got if you'd built a glass box and were growing a bit of kale in there that isn't really growing. It's just busy not dying.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, maybe the majority of the people do it just so they feel like they're doing good growing something all winter long.
Well, I mean, it's kind of neat to go out
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's like a science experiment. It's kind
Yeah.
of fun, but I can say and I said I've done this for one season,
Yeah.
so I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's in terms of the time I invested in it, it was a waste of time
Right.
compared to growing. If I'd grown in that same area, carrots, potatoes, parsnips,
Yeah.
squash, I would have got way more out of that space
Yeah, yeah.
that
That
was
makes sense.
available to me calorically, nutritionally in the winter. I would have got so much more.
Mm.
I got
Mm-hmm.
almost nothing.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to.
I got enough to say I got something,
Yeah.
but I did not get enough to say that that would have got us over
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the lean
exactly.
months.
Yeah, yeah.
I would have had to go out in the woods and find something
Yeah.
meat wise.
Yeah.
if I was
Yeah.
reduced, I wasn't reduced to that. But if I was reduced to that,
Yeah.
the garden wouldn't have that cold frame wouldn't have kept us going at all.
Well, maybe you could use the cold frame to lure in the wildlife.
Well, you can't open it because you
No,
open
that's
it,
right. Then
everything
everything
die.
dies.
It'll just get hit over.
Yeah, that won't work. That was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But interesting. Well, I wonder, if anybody listening has had great success with
Yeah.
their cold frames. Hey, let us know. Shoot us over a picture. Send us some info.
Yeah. I wanna learn. I mean, if I'm missing something here, that'd be, I want to. If I'm missing something, I want to know, because if there's a
Yeah.
right way to do this where it's actually, productive,
Yeah.
it's the caloric value from that space is worth what going from a cost benefit sort of point of view, it's worth what you're getting out something close to what you're putting in. That sounds
Yeah.
great to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think a 4 by 10 space of carrot, that's a lot of carrots,
Mm.
right? Or potatoes, that's a lot of food,
Yeah.
right? I just think that's a better use of the space. Um, you don't necessarily, if you eat, this time of year I'm gorging on greens. So I think by
Yeah.
the end of, my garden's productive till about November.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm eating out of there all the time, and it's really driving my diet, especially now. But even right up till November, it's really driving my diet. I'm
Yeah.
eating everything out of there. I'm trying to keep ahead of it. And but if there's a way to go about doing cold frames that's really producing something that's comparable to what I can get out of using that same space for
Mm-hmm.
root vegetables or winter squashes, let me know,
Yeah.
because I'd love to hear about that. And I guess speaking to that, because we did an episode a while ago, and I was kind of trashing vermiculture.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do a follow up to that, because a listener wrote in and said that it doesn't smell. I again, full disclosure, I said I've never tried this, but from what I've read, it doesn't seem like a
Yeah.
good use of my time.
Yeah.
So a listener wrote in and said, you can put one in your garage, and the bears aren't going to get in there, and it's a good way to produce fertile soil, and it's a good way to use up your compost and so on. So That very week, as soon as that listener wrote that in, I went and I had enough leftover plastic containers, storage containers. I built a vermicomposting, facility in my
Mhm.
that same garage where I store my potatoes and carrots.
Yep.
And I went on YouTube and just looked at about 10. I think with YouTube, you should always look at 10 different people doing the same
Right.
thing, because half of them are just talking
Yeah.
foolishness, and a fraction of them are actually speaking from experience. So I
Right.
looked at a bunch of them and I chose a design that seemed to be common to most.
Yeah.
So I built a vermicomposting thing. I had some soil in my garden that was full of worms, so I put that in there. And once a week, it, it's not productive to the sense that it keeps up with my compost. I am
Right.
producing more, because am eating so much vegetables right now. My compost container is full almost every day with the parts of the vegetable I don't eat. So I'm producing a lot of compost, and the vermicomposting facility I have doesn't keep up with it. But
Right. Right.
I've put stuff in there every week, banana
Mm.
peels and this, that, and the other thing. Any time where I've got my compost bin, which is next to the cutting board in my kitchen, and I know it's full of stuff that doesn't have meat in it,
Yeah.
and I know there's no fruit flies in it because I don't want to create a fruit fly factory in my.
Mm.
So I just, you sort of open it up and you can tell there's nothing flying around. This has been a great summer for me. Anybody in Nova Scotia, because we've got this composting law. A lot of people by sometime in August, their house is just inundated with fruit
Oh
flies
yeah. Yeah.
from all the composting. But this has been a great year for, I don't know if it's the way we've stayed on top of it. I have to give some credit to my wife. She's
Yeah.
extraordinary with, I'm kind of lazy in the kitchen. I like to have the lid open to the compost bin so I can throw.
Mm.
I'm cooking a
Mm.
lot, so I like to throw stuff in there. But we've done a fairly good job this year, so I haven't seen a lot of fruit flies in the house.
Yeah.
But anyway, the worms in that vermicomposting thing, they're doing fine. My garage, it's not it's a garage large enough to put a truck in, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not a 2-car garage. It's a 1-car garage. It has no smell at all,
Mm.
none. Now, when you open up the vermicomposting thing, oh my God, make sure you hold your breath before you open it. But the garage doesn't have a smell. I have to
Wow.
say, there's no smell in there. And I imagine if I scaled that up, and had more of them, if I, could figure out a way to um, make it larger and find a space for it with all the kids' toys and bicycles and stuff,
Yeah.
I could probably have a facility that keeps up with, 70-80% of all the compost that I produce.
Mm.
So it's worth doing. It's worth doing in your garage. It's not producing. It's not like I'm probably going to run this thing right up until next spring. That's what I'm committed to, and I'm probably going to get a few buckets of soil out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not generating cubic yards of
No.
soil with
No.
this, but it's a way to take the compost you have and compost it. When you're living in a semi-rural place like I am, where you can't just when I used to live in the suburbs, I composted in my backyard because
Right.
the worst problem I had was raccoons, and there was ways I could secure my compost bin against raccoons.
Yeah.
I do all kinds of really inventive things. I had a lid on it that they figured out how to tip up.
Mm.
So I'd stack shovels and pots and pans and all kinds. So if they tried to tip the lid off, all these things would fall down and scare the hell out of them.
And did it work?
You'd hear it in the middle of the night sometimes, and you hear them scream and run away. Those booby, I
Yeah. Booby
wasn't
trap.
designed to hurt them, but it was just designed to
Yeah.
scare the hell out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was my biggest problem was raccoons. Whereas here I've got black bears and things like that they're
Yeah.
not scared of nothing.
No.
So
No.
I really can't compost in my backyard in any meaningful way, even as it is right now in our neighborhood. Everybody is putting their compost in their freezer until the day the city comes to pick it up.
Oh wow.
Because if you don't do that, you're going to get your bin tipped up, and you're going to have a
Crap all
large
over the place.
carnivore attracted to your property where your
Yeah.
children play. A large
That's no good.
a large carnivore that can take you out in a like nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
You're like an
So
ant to that thing.
yeah. Sasquatch will be out there.
It's a Sasquatch. You need to be Lee Majors to take on the Sasquatch. I'm dating myself with that reference. But, famous $6 million man, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
But
it makes sense.
Yeah. So I've learned that vermiculture is not a waste of time, and it's worth doing, and it's a viable way to compost when composting is difficult, if not impossible, on your property due to, the wildlife in your area.
Interesting. And that was all from a listener comment.
Yeah. Now, I've yet to have a bear rip the door off my garage, but there's no smell coming out of there. Right? Because whatever's going on in that vermicomposting station, it's not like, if you walk by my, that big green bin that the city picks, that stinks.
Oh yeah. Those are
maggots everywhere.
Those are ripe.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting on your deck and the wind's going the wrong way, my God!
It's like, there isn't much that smells worse than that.
But I think, and what I do with the vermicomposting thing too, I mean, I have a plastic lid on it, but I've also put just an old bed sheet over the whole thing so that, nothing can really fly in there and get going.
Yeah.
So the only thing in it is, as far as I can visually confirm, is the microbial organisms that are in the soil and the small red wiggler worms, which I did not buy online from some store. They were present in the soil. I just got a bunch of soil. It was really, really good horse manure that I got from a stable in Mount Uniacke. But it was full of these little red wiggler worms, and they seem to be happy as can be in that thing, and they're just doing their thing. So it's definitely worth your time. So thank you. I wish I knew the name of the listener, but thank you for that tip. It was totally worth my time, and I stand corrected.
He can be wrong.
It's possible. Well, it's gardening. That's the beauty of gardening. It's a lifelong
learning process.
I'm hoping that when I'm 90, I'll figure something new out every season, just like I am.
Nice. Well, that's cool. That was a good episode. I'm assuming that pretty well wraps it up.
Yeah. Cool. I think we killed it.
Right on. Awesome. So you want to follow the show notes for episode 17? Just go to maritimegardening.com/017. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Interestingly enough, we do appear to have a significant amount of subscribers doing that. So that's great. And by all means, if you have gardening friends or anybody that may be interested, please spread the word. Leave us a positive comment. I guess any comment really, but positive ones are nice. Those are nice. Yeah. We'll take them all. And so thanks for listening, and we will catch you on episode 18. Thanks.